My favorite topic for debates: what to buy, Quest 3 or Pico 4? And it seems like it's all pretty straightforward. If you have more money, take Quest 3. If you have less money and enjoy Chinese VR technologies. We can even finish this review and say that Quest 3 is a little bit better than Quest 4 in every way. Well, what's so hard to understand? But I want to answer the question in detail. How is the Pico different from the Quest? What is the difference between activation, image, experience cover? Is it worth paying extra for Quest upgrades? Only facts, only hardcore. I sometimes hear from Pico fans that it's not fair to compare the Pico 4, which is from the previous generation, with the Quest 3. At the same time, 2 years ago, when there were no rumors about the third Quest, everyone calmly compared the Pico with the 2 and everyone was okay. The second Quest can be compared to the Pico of Neo 3. So, in this video, we'll look at 2 modern headsets based on a number of key parameters. These are the factors you'll need to consider when making your purchase decision. If you're on a tight budget and have 5 kids to feed, then you definitely need to go with the Pico 4. Let's consider a parameter like comfort. How long can you spend in VR? It's really individual, so I'll talk about myself, my surroundings, and the users from our chat in Telegram. The QS3 comes with straps right out of the box. A helmet without a counterweight at the back puts pressure on the face, which is why many people's faces quickly become tired and sore. For example, I can't sit in straps for more than 15 minutes, although there is a percentage of people who are okay with it. Plus, obviously, the straps stretch, and with quick head movements, the headset can slide off, and you'll have to adjust it. But this kind of mounting actually has its advantages. It's more comfortable to lie down in it and easy to transport. That's where the advantages end. You can easily remove the stock mount and install a different, more comfortable one with a clear size adjustment system. The Pico comes with a plastic mount right out of the box, and the battery is located at the back of the head, so the weight is better balanced in terms of comfort. Out of the box, it's better without accessories, but the Pico doesn't have a modular system. If you want to refresh the current mount somehow, the most manufacturers offer upgrades for the cushions or additional pads. The Pico has another stock mask problem. I don't like it in terms of quality either, but most importantly, it puts a lot of pressure on my forehead. Buying a new mask is much cheaper than getting a new mount, so it's not that big of a deal. What's better? Well, personally, I like the Quest system more. Meta makes me pull out my wallet and throw money at the Chinese, but there's a huge selection for everyone. Are the controllers comfortable? I like both options. Both the Pico and the Quest have good controllers. The Quest has more compact ones, and it is possible to bring your hands close together since there is no rings with sensors. For one Pico controller, you'll need 2 batteries, while the Quest runs on just one. When you interact with something, the controllers vibrate to further immerse you in the VR experience. For example, in the Star Wars game Whether Immortal, the controllers do a cool job of mimicking a color sword. The Pico has a more powerful vibration, while the Quest has a more precise and soft vibration. You can even compare it with Joy-Cons, Nintendo, or DualSense from the 5th console. Overall, the vibration and haptic feedback, in my opinion, are good for both the Pico and the Quest. The image in both headsets is displayed on an LCD screen, and both headsets are made with pancake lenses. Right now, this is the trend because with this kind of optics, they've managed to significantly reduce the size of the headset. Just compare how huge the body was on the Quest 2 and the Pico Neo 3. Although pancake lenses have their fair share of drawbacks. But let's start with the good stuff. The numbers look great, yeah, and it works well in practice too. I'm satisfied with the quality of both headsets. Images. It's enough for that wow factor and a sense of realism. On paper, the Pico has slightly better resolution numbers than the Quest, but the pixel density figures are different. And that's the key parameter that makes the Quest 3's image sharper than the Pico's. The pixel grid on the Pico is a bit more noticeable. On the Quest, you really have to squint to notice it. There's also a parameter called the sweet spot. This is the area in the lenses through which you'll see the clearest image. So you need to put the headset on your head in such a way that your eyes are positioned as directly as possible in front of that area. You can forget about deep black colors on both headsets. This isn't OLED territory. Overall, dark locations are really lacking. The scourge of all pancakes at the moment is a re-reflection. Let's imagine a dark space where there's some bright object. It's like a weak flashlight is shining into our eyes from inside the lenses. There is reflection in both places. Meth managed to introduce a minimal effect, but they are noticeable when watching movies or playing dark games. Well, what can you do? That's the price you pay for the accessibility of the devices. It's also worth mentioning the so-called overlap effect on Quest 3. There's an image online that perfectly describes what this is all about. There's some good news. I, personally, don't see it, and a lot of people who have commented to us on Telegram and YouTube don't see it either. I read that the effect fades away after a while. Our brain has learned to ignore our nose. Just so you know, we always see our nose, we just get used to not noticing it. It's the same with the overlap. Sorry that for a while, you'll be seeing your nose. The field of view determines how strongly you'll feel it. The scuba mask effect. According to official figures measurements by enthusiasts, the Quest 3 is higher. If you compare them closely, in practice, it's just a little better. Honestly, for this parameter, you could say they're pretty much the same. Oh, there's another important point about the picture. The Quest 3 has an advantage with 120 Hz. This refresh rate works both natively and on PC VR. The Pico maxes out at 90 Hz. Well, the difference between 90 and 120 is really noticeable, so that's definitely a plus for the Quest. Let's sum it up. Who has the better picture? Definitely the Quest 3. Is the picture good on the Pico? Yeah, it's good too. Autonomous games for it have started to take up more space, character locations are gradually getting more shadows, textures, lighting, and overall becoming more beautiful. It's worth remembering that the chip is still mobile. The games are detailed and sharper, but there's still this feeling of an overhyped smartphone, where the picture has been stretched out to 360 degrees. We're still a long way from reaching the level of PC VR. Also, developers love a little bit of laziness with optimization. The experience of Shredmeter 2 showed us that if you really want to, you can even go on a quest to make a very beautiful, graphic, and lag-free game, one that makes your jaw drop and break through concrete. But most are simply too lazy to do the same, or resort to cell shading, or make ugly soap, like in Medieval Dynasty. If you pay more attention to the gameplay and the picture is not so important, then just choose a helmet from the available library. As for mobile graphics, they're just a bit more pleasant in the Quest 3. If stunning graphics are critically important to you, then it's better to play on a computer, and both headsets handle that task well. Here I am talking about how perfect the Quest 3 is, how everything is so good and rosy about it. Not even close. If we compare battery efficiency, all the points go to the Pico here. The new processor and EMR features use up more resources, so the battery on the Quest 3 drains faster. Even if Quest, it just sits on the shelf, turned off, and continues to lose charge. And that really drives me crazy, to be honest. The pic can lie dormant for almost a month, and you will find that about 30% is gone. I'm not joking, it really happened to us. In the off state, it can last for several months. Be prepared for the fact that when playing on a PC with regular link cables without additional power, the Quest 3 drains just like it does in standalone mode. So, about an hour and a half, give or take. At least the Pico holds the battery a bit better, although it also lacks power from the computer. In the power bank for the Quest, there are as many options as there are seeds in a sunflower. Accordingly, third-party mounts with external batteries have become more expensive. Because more powerful batteries are required. You can use the previous batteries, but they drain much faster. And still, you'll have to spend more on a few power banks. Operating systems are generally very similar. Using them is nice, but that's just my personal preference. I like the Quest more. It's like iOS and Android, it just depends on who you ask. Some features are better implemented in the Pico, while others are better in the Quest. Native home environments. Both of them look pretty mediocre, like soap operas. You can install custom environments on the Quest, like Silent Hill or Hogwarts, but you can't do that on the Pico. In any case, I just want to get out of there and jump into a VR game, or MR. And now we smoothly transition to mixed reality. The Quest 3 is positioned specifically. Both Marsh Limb and almost all resources are being directed towards the development of this new direction. At the release of Quest 3, only Lazy didn't complain about the camera's MAR. Now, almost a year later, the meta has been greatly improved with updates, and the quality of the broadcast image has become higher. They've almost managed to get rid of those awful distortions, and you can even watch your own stuff on your phone screen. No problems on the app front either, everything's pretty active. Mixed reality games are coming out regularly, and a decent number of titles offer MR as an optional mode. Pico didn't set out to make something super cool. Mixed reality mode. There is only one camera in the helmet, and that is purely nominal, for going to get some water and a drink. But the most you can do is doodle in open brush for 5 minutes and shoot some birds in Angry Birds. Because there's only one camera instead of two, you don't get a sense of depth in the space, and the sizes of objects get distorted. the image, to put it mildly. It's really bad, even in the light. You can really see how bad the Pico is with depth perception when it comes to mapping out a room and furniture. It's practically impossible to align virtual lines with reality. You could say that IMR is the main software exclusive feature of the Quest 3. That's all great, but I don't see any long-term development in it. Yeah, it's cool, but nothing more than that. Of course, having used the third Quest, I don't want to downgrade to black and white cameras, like in the second Quest, or to the flat picture from Pico 4. I even start to feel a bit uneasy. But if everything had stayed at the previous level, if Meta had focused on trending standalone games with deep storylines and gameplay, or improved the connection with Caviar, I wouldn't be upset at all. So, in this regard, I don't see the point of Meta's dominance. The third Quest, as a pioneer, gets all the most interesting and not so interesting features. One of the most memorable features is Direct Touch, where you tap on the interface like you would on a tablet. There have been a lot of updates to tracking.ru. It's definitely still not the most accurate, but it's still impressive. Tracking legs through AI algorithms, though this feature currently works in only a few applications. Simultaneous tracking of hands and controllers is a cool feature. Multitasking, when you can pull up multiple monitors in front of you or open Telegram over a VR game. From the latest at the time of recording. Background music playback, travel mode, the ability to hide apps from the library, lying down mode. Yeah, Meta has come up with a lot of things, and many features have become so ingrained in the VR experience that I can't even remember them. I've gotten used to them and take them for granted. Updates come out every month. At first glance, why does a gaming device need all these features? In one of the videos, I made a thesis that the Quest is slowly fading away. From the term gaming console to wearable computer. More people are using it to watch videos, scroll through social media, or even work. Pico is less suitable for these purposes, at least because it doesn't have multitasking. I think with Pico, in the next version of the helmet they will also do something similar. But for now, this gadget is purely for VR gaming and watching movies. The use of both headsets for work is still specific. There are very few applications, and the functions of operating systems in this area are not fully developed. Of course, you can just connect the headset to a PC or Mac. Both headsets handle this equally well through programs like Immersed and Virtual Desktop. Now you might be wondering, what's up with the most popular use case, the adult content? Oh, my! Yeah, everything's great, and in DOSI, there are 360 degrees and VR games. You'll get the same result on both the Quest and the Pico. No one can argue that the Quest platform currently leads in terms of content. The situation right now is like this. There aren't any exclusives on the Pico. Meta has them, but do you really need them? The two strongest arguments in favor of Meta are Resident Evil 4 and Asgard's Wrath 2. Both games are awesome and definitely worth playing. Other exclusives: Assassin's Creed Nexus, Stranger Things VR. Well, I don't think it's a big loss if you miss them. There are, of course, other projects that are only available on the Quest or available on other platforms, but they're offline on the Pico. For example, to play Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, you need a Quest or PSVR 2. You can't even do that on the Pico through a PC. Also, in 2024, an exclusive Batman game and a port of Hitman 3 are planned for the Quest. But we still don't know what the quality is like, especially with the Steam version. Hitman 3. We laughed a lot back then. Consider it, that version doesn't exist. There were just way too many bugs in that one. I think Batman is going to be awesome. A long time ago, they announced an exclusive Just Dance for the Pico, but you won't believe it, it's coming out on the Meta Quest instead. You could definitely call out the Pico for not having native Roblox. Honestly, I'm not really into it, but as far as I know, everyone who's interested is complaining about the Quest version. Maybe they've already fixed it. Anyway, there's a standalone Roblox on the Quest, but you can only access it on the Pico through a PC. Besides the games that signed exclusivity with Meta, there are developers who release their games only for the Quest. Because they either don't have the resources to release them on different platforms or they just don't want to ideologically. I don't know. I'm not going to list all those kinds of games right now. There are quite a few. Well, for example, The Clam 2, Mudrunner VR, Aspire 2, Medieval Dynasty New Settlement, Havlof's Shack, Tropica, Lego, Brick Tales, and others. But some games are no longer exclusive. VRChat officially launched on Pico. Beat Saber has been ported, even if it's unofficial. The Quest developer announced upcoming support for Pico. Right now, there are already over 600 apps on the platform. I only counted that based on the Pico public table, not including the free ones. That's just great. That's 60 times more than the Pimax Crystal. Pico is doing great. They started from scratch and in a year and a half, they built up their system. A very important advantage of the Quest 3 is that there's an unofficial utility to enhance the resolution of standalone apps. It's called Quest Games Optimizer. I talked about its functionality in a separate video. You can play around with the image resolution, either improving it or making it worse, depending on what you need. Performance or graphics. It's clear that high-res textures won't just appear on their own, but at least the sharpness and clarity are improving. That's nice. There's no such app on Pico. There are no ways to improve the image either, at least I haven't heard of any. It's hard to talk about PC connections in a general way. I'm only going to talk about my personal experience. Your results will depend on your computer specs, the model of your router, how you've set up the router, and how you've configured the programs for connecting to your computer. I have a desktop PC with an RTX 4070 Super and an i7-3700KF processor. So, there will be a config next to me in the text. For wireless, the Quest 3 has a whopping 3 connection options: AirLink, Virtual Desktop, and Steam Link. Pico has one option less. The official Pico program is Pico Connect and VDH. And there's also LVR, which works for both headsets, but let's not talk about that nightmare, please. Free official AirLink. Everyone's complaining, especially about the Wi-Fi Connect. I turned on 120 Hz and left the resolution at default. I found out through experimentation that with the bitrate set to 150, everything works great. Maybe I'm just lucky. Maybe the computer is good or it's outside the tests. The router performed well, and the gods of wireless networks helped us, but AirLink was working great for me. I set it up really quickly, not counting the struggle with the Chinese internet. The stress test for Beat Sabers passed with flying colors, 10 out of 10. ALEC will also play smoothly and at ultra. It seems to me that AirLink is lying about 150 megabits per second. In reality, this value is probably less. In similar conditions, WD only works fine at 100 megabits per second, and if you set it higher, it starts to lag. Many people have AirLink that doesn't want to be friends with their computer or router, or it happens that something breaks again after an update. But if something goes wrong with Quest, they can try another free software, Steam Link. What's going on with Pico? Some time ago, I personally slammed Pico's software on this channel and complained about it for good reason, because it was working terribly. In 2 years, they managed to get the Pico software in shape by releasing an updated app. It's gotten a lot better. If you select the bitrate and resolution, the controllers are no longer jelly, although miracles with the Peak Link still happen. The app has presets for different computer specs. Ultra just won't let me stand. The picture, you know, is a bit weak. Alright, HD is good. One day I'm playing at 100 bitrate and in HD quality. The picture is stunning, nothing lags, everything is responsive and perfect. Beautiful. The next day, under the same conditions, everything is lagging for me. What's causing this and on what lunar day is the picture? I don't know. Not many people use Pico's official software. Almost everyone goes straight to buy Virtual Desktop. The downside of the official apps is that they have pretty limited settings. Virtual Desktop is a paid alternative program. It's available for both headsets for $25. It has ready-made presets for lazy folks, or you can fine-tune it to fit your setup. Most likely, you'll spend at least 2 hours finding the optimal settings for yourself. I spent a lot of time on Quest 3 and just as much time on the Peak. As a result, both headsets worked the same for me, without delays and smoothly. The picture was also the same, but if you look closely, Quest 3 is just a tiny bit better. Quest 3 with Virtual Desktop has the advantage of supporting the AV1 codec. But you can only try it out if you own a 40 series graphics card. All tests were conducted in the game Half-Life Alyx. What can I say? In Alyx, I had this feeling like they cranked up the sharpness slider. The image is set to maximum. The picture really did become even clearer, although it would seem, where else could it get? Within a meter of me, the game looked even close to realistic. The only thing that gave away that it was virtual reality were the blurry backgrounds in the distance. You can fix the draw distance by setting a higher resolution in the settings. But then my computer can't handle the load, it starts to whine and lag. It's not that AV1 is an important killer feature of the third Quest. Yes, it's nice that ALEC has become even sharper and more precise, but not so much that it makes you drool with admiration. Plus, it would be nice to have more games with graphics like this, you know. It's a bit easier with wires than with the whole Wi-Fi situation. Both the Peak and the Quest can be connected to a computer via a wire only through the official SO. Previously, it was possible to use some kind of crutches through virtual desktop, but as I understand it, this shop has either closed down or it only works occasionally. I'll be straight with you, Metalink works better. I mean, Pico Connect. I just couldn't get it set up properly in good quality. The settings had to be lowered to SD, that is, to the level of the 20 series of NVIDIA. If I set it any higher, the lag starts immediately. The image there is already more shocking. The Quest fired up without any issues and works great. What's the deal with games from alternative stores? Traditionally, it is believed that things are better at the Peak. Like with the Quest, you have to go through way too many steps to enable developer mode and get access to install third-party apps. But with the Pico, you just have to press one button a few times without even taking off the headset. However, if you compare, it's actually the other way around. Basically, with the Quest, you just have to go through the setup once, and then you can use programs with a convenient and complete library that enthusiasts have kindly created for us. The programs do everything for you. The Pico doesn't have those advantages, not in the form of a program. Moreover, the latest firmware on the Pico actually prohibits doing this, and you have to go through some steps with each downloaded game. And every subsequent operating system update can change everything and break it. Now you might argue, well, actually, there's one program on the Pico. First of all, that's not it. Secondly, you still need to download the APKs for the games separately. Thirdly, I read the process of preparing the helmet for this program. And I thought, I really don't want to download third-party games on the Pico. I won't go into more detail on this topic anymore. Check out all the ways to bypass things in the forums and think about whether you really need it. There are universal accessories for both devices, for example, cables, stands and cases suitable for the Quest and Tika. Objectively, there are many more different accessories released for the Quest, meaning you will have more space for upgrades. The only thing the Pico has really excelled at is their effort to make their own foot trackers. There are practically no compatible apps. The Quest 3 and Pico 4 come in two versions. The Quest comes in versions with 128 and 512 GB, while the Pico has options for 128 and 256 GB. The Chinese headset also has a Pro version with 512 GB of memory and face trackers, but I won't go into detail about it. For those interested, we have a review on our channel. So, is there any point in having more memory? In the case of the Quest 3, definitely. Yes. We found that the 100 GB version just wasn't enough for anything. I got tired of cleaning out my library, so I switched to 512 GB, and now I'm enjoying life. But with the Pico, as practice shows, you don't really need the 256 GB version. The games there are from the old generation and take up less space. You can comfortably store about 10, 15, even 20 games. For those who want to use the Pico as a storage for movies, sure, go for the 256 or even the Pro version with 512 GB. I only want to play in standalone mode. Is this about you or not? In any case, it is highly recommended to have a gaming PC at home because there are VR masterpieces that are only available on PC. Plus, if you get tired of the standalone graphics, you'll have the option to switch to a better version. If you don't have a choice, and you're stuck with a potato laptop or a PC that hasn't been updated since 2012, then of course, go for the Quest. In fact, you can even go for the 2 instead of the 3. The Pico is better suited for a PC VR experience. Why buy the Pico 4 now if a new version with a new processor is coming out soon? Good question, but you might not need the Pico 5. As Pico themselves informed us, they plan to release a new headset in September. What are we expecting from it? I think the biggest update is the new processor, and along with it, the visuals will be better. It might be better. Mixed reality camera and ringless controllers. I don't believe in a solution to the problem of reflections, at least not on a global scale, if Pico wants to keep the price affordable. That's all great, of course, but what's it all for? The Quest 3 has the advantage of updated graphics in games. Will the developers bother with them for the Peak? If Pico goes the meta route, will there be any solutions with virtual monitors, multitasking and MR gains? Are they really essential for you? You can take a look at the experience of games with hand tracking. Pico, of course, did a great job adding hand tracking, but it works frankly worse than the Quest 1. Yeah, and there still haven't been any hand tracking games released for the Pico. Overall, I'm still having doubts about the success of the Pico 5. Yeah, the display and visuals will be sharper, but the Pico 4 already has a decent image right now. So, what's the point of waiting for the new headset instead of just getting the fourth one? Maybe I'm wrong and the Pico 5 will take the market by storm, but we'll only find out after it's released. All the facts are in front of you, now you just have to decide which path to take. Yeah, the Quest 3 is definitely better in many ways, but you have to decide for yourself if it's worth paying extra for everything I've mentioned. If you think all those bells and whistles aren't for you, then go ahead and grab the Pico. Let me know in the comments what you think about this format of video comparison. What other headsets should we compare in more detail? And what would you add to our review? Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the future.